Hello Year 7 and welcome back to your second lesson on drawing eyes. So just to recap, last week with your eye drawing we got to this stage where you had drawn out the shapes and the details of the eye from the photograph. Today we're going to be focusing on adding tones to your drawing. So once again, last week we practiced creating different tones by creating tonal scales and by graduating tone. Okay, this week we're going to be putting all that into practice and adding tones to your drawing. Remember that this is an observational drawing, which means that we're drawing this eye as accurately as we can, drawing exactly what we see. Okay, and we are adding tones, which is light and dark, so we're showing which areas are light and which areas are dark. Okay, and the reason we add tone to drawings is to make them look 3D. Okay, so when you did your tonal scale, that's the one that looks like this. The point of having that was so that you could compare the tones to the picture. Okay, so you can look at the picture and you can think to yourself, okay, these parts are really dark, I know that means I need to press really hard for those bits. These bits are much lighter. That means I know that I need to use the side of my pencil and press quite gently. Okay, so I'm going to make a start on adding tones to this, and I'm going to actually start with the lighter tones. Okay, and I'm going to practice graduating the tone. So on the eyelid here, we can see that it fades from light to dark and then dark back to light again. So I'm going to add those tones to this eye. Okay, so remember, it's really important that you're going to be looking at the picture a lot because this is an observational drawing. Okay, and then you need to remember what I said last week was that you're better off creating lighter tones and then adding lots of layers. Okay, I will probably have to go in and press really hard into this bit later, but first of all I'm just trying to add the basic tones by layering up. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that now for that first bit. I might need to go back to it and add and refine it a little bit more in a bit. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some tone to underneath where the eyelashes are. Now you'll notice I've started at the top and I'm actually going to work my way down. That's partly a practical reason, because if you're not careful, if you go back over something, you're going to smudge it with your hand. Okay, so I'm starting at the top and working my way down as much as I can. So I'm going to add tone underneath here to this area here, where I'll add the eyelashes on top at the end. Okay, we're still not adding the eyelashes yet. So the next part I'm going to add tone to is this little part, this part of the eye here, which remember this is where the tear duct is, and these are some of the muscles that help your eye move around. And I'm actually going to add some tone to the white part of the eye. Now that's actually really important because the white part of your eye, this is an eyeball, okay, which means we need to make it look like it's 3D. Okay, so we're trying here to add some tone around the edge. You can see it's a little bit darker down here. It's darker at the top, underneath the eyelashes as well. So I'm just going to shade that in quite lightly. So that's enough probably for the white of the eye. Okay, now I'm going to work on this little bit here. There's a highlight here, so I need to make sure that I just sketch in very lightly that little shape. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, and then I shade in around that, but leave that bit white because that will help it look shiny. Add a little bit more detail in here using the point. Remember, layer your tone rather than just pressing hard because you've got a bit more control when you do that. So now I've shaded in this part of the eye and the white of the eye. Okay, so the next thing that I'll move on to is where most of the detail in the eye which is in the iris. So the next part of the eye that I'm going to focus on is the iris, which actually has most of the detail in the eye. Okay, and it's made up from lots and lots and lots from different tones. So it's useful at this point to really look at your tonal scale and match the tones from your tonal scale to the eye. So we can see really clearly that this is going to be the lightest part here. In fact, it's a highlight, so we'll leave that bit white. And then the darkest parts are going to be the pupil. Okay, it's very dark at the top here where it's underneath the eyelashes, and it's dark around the edge of the iris. So I'm actually going to start with the darkest parts, and then I'm going to work on all of this detail here afterwards. So I'm going to start at the top. So remember, it's easiest if you start with from the top. Okay, so I want these parts to be quite dark, so I'm immediately using the point of my pencil. Remember to keep looking at your photograph all the time so that you can see exactly which bits need to be darker and which bits need to be lighter. So now I'm going to start to add some tone around the edge of the iris and onto the pupil. So you can see now that I've put tones onto all the darkest areas of the iris. These lines here I'll add after I've added the basic tones in here. Now, when I was adding the dark tones into here, I needed to press really hard with my pencil and use the point of the pencil. But now, for this area here of the iris, I'm actually going to just make it reasonably light tone to begin with, and then I can add all of this detail. There's lots and lots of detail on the iris. I'm going to add all of that over the top of my basic tone. So I'm going to start off, I've sharpened my pencil, I'm going to start off just adding a basic, reasonably light tone. And I'm actually working from the centre outwards, going around. Using the side of my pencil. So now I've got a basic lightish tone in the iris. I can start to add some slightly darker parts, so it's quite a bit darker all the way around here and a little bit around the edge. And then I'm going to use some mark making techniques to add some of this detail, these kind of lines that come from the centre outwards. And that's what will really give your iris personality. Okay, so that's what I'm doing next. So you can see that I've added lots and lots of detail to the iris now. Now I'm going to add some detail into the reflection here. If we look at the photo, you can see at the top here, if you look really carefully, that's the reflection of the eyelashes. So they need to be drawn in, and just bring in a few shapes just over here, just so it's not quite such a regular shape. So remember, keep looking at your picture. Eyelashes, by the way, are not straight. Do not draw them straight because they're not. Don't draw too many either. There's not actually as many here as you might think. And if you draw too many, it's just going to look quite strange. So the next thing I'm going to work on is I'm going to work on this area down here. So the first thing is I need to look really carefully at this part just below the eye. Just need really gently to add a bit of tone over this side. And then underneath that line, I need to start to make it a little bit darker. Need to leave a gap. Might go back with a rubber actually after I've done this. Okay, now if I look closely, this area here where the eyelashes come from, because it sticks out a bit, is actually a bit lighter. So I'm just going to use a rubber along here, just to rub back into it a little bit, just to make it a bit lighter in that area. So you can use a rubber to add highlights, but it's a bit clumsy, so you're better off leaving gaps really. Okay, so last thing. Finally we're here. We're going to add some eyelashes. Now, eyelashes. First of all, there are less eyelashes than you think. Secondly, Eyelashes are curved, and you can see that really clearly at the outside edge and on the bottom. Okay. Thirdly, they go in different directions, so you're going to need to look really carefully to see which directions they go in. So here on this side they go slightly down and across that way, then they're really short and come towards us, then they start to go up, but again they're still pretty much towards us, and then towards the outside of the eye they start to go outwards. Okay, now the way to draw eyelashes is you start with your pencil on the line that they grow from, and you flick out and up, flick out and up. Okay, so remember, keep looking at the direction. Okay, some of them will cross over other ones, so don't make them all go in exactly the direct direction. None of them will be completely straight, so yours shouldn't be. And there will be a lot less than we think, okay? Girls always add far too many eyelashes when they're doing this, partly because we think that's what it looks like when you've got mascara on, okay? But there are many less eyelashes than you might think. So I've added lots of eyelashes. I actually need to make this area here a lot darker. So I'm going to go back in now and add a bit more tone to that. Okay, now I'm going to start to add some eyelashes to the bottom. Okay, I'm going to come from this point here. And again, there's very few eyelashes at the bottom. Remember to look at the direction. Remember to look at the groupings, because there seems to be on this picture quite a few of them grouped together. Okay, and at that point I'm going to call my drawing finished. Okay, I could probably add a bit more detail into the iris, but for our purposes I'm going to stop there so that you can finish your drawing. Okay, bye for now.